Good afternoon. I'm Nita Farmer. I'm the Executive Vice President of the Washington County Chamber of Commerce, and I just want to welcome you today. I'm filling in for Sandy. She had a family emergency, but she will be here in spirit with us, and we just wish her well. Please keep her in your prayers. It's my pleasure today to introduce Sonya Vanhook. She's going to be our presenter today. Sonya works at the Southwest Virginia Higher Education Center. She has worked there for over 25 years. She is a teacher, a very good one, I might add, and she is a Toastmaster. And I would like to say thank you to the higher ed and to Whitfield's Toastmasters for both being loyal members of our chamber. And with that, I would like to say welcome, Sonya, and I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you. Tell us all about the importance of public speaking and how valuable it is to be part of Toastmasters.
Thank you, Nita. I appreciate the fact that you've asked me to speak to you today. As she said, my name is Sonya Vanhook. I put this slide up here. I know that you're Washington County Chamber in this new knowledge series, but I put this up here to remind me when I gave this particular speech and what the date was when we got this particular information. The importance of public speaking. If you think about a famous speech, an example of that would be the Gettysburg Address. It was delivered November the 19th, 1863. It was the dedication of a military cemetery at Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, delivered by President Abraham Lincoln. And it's one of the most memorable speeches in American history. And I wonder why it goes down in history as one of the most memorable speeches. Well, it wasn't a very long speech. It was just fewer than 275 words. He reminded a weary public to fight and win the Civil War. You can go on YouTube right now and Google or search for famous speech examples, and you'll find many others. Maybe you'll find some that really encourage you and give you a good example of how you could give a speech and some good qualities you could incorporate when you're writing your speeches. There are different types of speaking. Informative speaking. This is the most common, and it happens on a daily basis. This is where you simply give information. There are formal types of speaking where you have academic or professional knowledge, or simply giving a progress report. We do this in every staff meeting where I'm required to report on what I'm working on and the success, or maybe the not so success, of the projects that I have going on. It could be directions on how to use a product. Another type of speaking is called persuasive speaking. An informal type of persuasive speaking would be choosing a place for lunch. Have you ever stood around with a group of people and said, okay, now where do you want to go to lunch? Oh, I don't care. Where do you to go to lunch? I have spent 20 minutes standing around saying these particular things. You need a group leader. You need someone to just say, okay, we're going to this particular place. We're not going there because we went there last week or something like that. You could be that persuasive speaker, and that's a good informal place to practice your speaking. It could be your persuasive speaking would be a more formal basis, such as a candidate for debate and someone who's up for election, and they want to give, first of all, a formal speech, or they could just be debating their political opponent. Two different kinds of persuasive speaking there. Another type of a persuasive speaker would be to motivate others. And I think of a coach in a locker room. We just finished March Madness with all of the excitement of all the ball games. And I wonder what has been said in those locker rooms that really motivated those athletes to come out and give it all they've got and win the ball game. Another example of to motivate others would be Mel Gibson in that movie Braveheart. You remember him standing there giving a famous speech, and he encouraged his fighters to go and fight for freedom. He encouraged his countrymen to go and fight for freedom. So there are many examples of persuasive speaking. An employment interview is another example. You are trying to to persuade the people who are interviewing you to hire you, that you are the best candidate. And then another example would be a sales pitch. Now, I have met in the Washington County Chamber many business owners, and we've encouraged you all to have your sales pitch ready. There's a formal sales pitch where you sit down with somebody in their office and you sit there in your desk and you have plenty of time to discuss your product or your service. But we've also talked about the elevator speech, where you have 1 to 2 minutes, the time it would take to go up a few floors in the elevator, to talk to someone. They may see your shirt where you have your company name. They may see some papers in your hand where they say, hey, what is this business here you're advertising? And you just have a few minutes. You've got to have that ready. And that's a very short, informal type of a persuasive speech. Entertaining speeches, award ceremonies. Do you hear it all the time? I'd like to thank the Academy. And then people are giving their speeches on who they want to thank for the award that they've won. Wedding toast is an entertainment speak. I've heard people who get so nervous and so upset about giving the best man's toast. And so you would have to practice giving that particular thing. Comedy sketches are an example, poetry readings. A good speaker makes a good leader. And a good leader means you have opportunities. As a good leader, you will be given more opportunities in social settings, your career, and other aspects of life. Effective speakers have several things in common. Number one, they make eye contact. If I'm speaking to a group, I'm looking out over the audience, and what I'm really doing is I'm looking at the top of your head from about right here up. You can't tell that I'm not looking directly into your eyes because we're so far away. But that is my trick, to look right here when I'm looking over the audience, particularly in an emotionally charged situation, as in a funeral. If I'm looking at somebody and they're crying, I'm going to get emotional. So I can't make direct eye contact, but I can give you the illusion that I'm looking right at you by looking at this point of your head. Eye contact has taken a big change when we've started giving all of our speeches by Zoom. Many things that I have seen, many events, the speaker is looking down because they have a laptop and it's sitting on their desk and their camera is down. So when you're doing a Zoom speech, I encourage you to bring your camera up so that it's at least appears to be even at eye level. Move your view. The point is, you should be looking from this side of the room all the way to this side of the room and making contact with everybody there. Have you ever been in a particular meeting where the speaker spoke to just one side of the room, or even more awkwardly, just to one person? Maybe they had a family member or the friend and they just looked at that one person for the entire time. That's something that you want to avoid. You want to sweep the room so that you make contact with your entire audience. Talk, don't read. Now, this is very difficult, but you have something important to say. Just tell us about it. Tell us what you want us to know. On your notes, you may have talking points, bullet points to remind you what is next, but you don't want to have every single word written out, particularly if you're doing a PowerPoint. If every single word is written out on your PowerPoint, then I really have no need for you. I can read it there on the screen. Your voice is your instrument. We see this a lot in advertisements. Sometimes they talk really loud and get up really close to the camera. And then sometimes they just whisper. There is a current advertisement. I think the first time I saw it was at the Super Bowl, one of the Super Bowl ads, where the spokesperson just whispered through the entire commercial. Now, that's designed to get your attention. I raised 3 children, and that was the hardest thing I ever did. And Joseph is aware of this fact. Joseph is our wild child, or was. He's grown now, but Joseph was our wild child. And there was a point where I would say, stop doing that. Usually it's something very dangerous. And I would say, stop doing that. And I didn't know if he was just ignoring me or if he couldn't hear me. So I did a very informal speech hearing test. Joseph was sitting on the floor playing with his little cars, and I walked up behind him. And I said, Joseph. And he didn't respond. And I waited a minute. And again, I whispered, Joseph. And he didn't respond. So I'm thinking, well, maybe he can't hear me. The third time I said, Joseph. And he replied, what? That's the day I found out that Joseph could hear me. He was choosing to ignore me when I said, stop doing that. We made several trips to the emergency room. We got comfortable with the doctors, with the x-ray and with the MRI, and Joseph actually went into the medical field. I was concerned at one point that I was going to get turned over to Child Protective Services because we had been to the emergency room so many times because Joseph would climb on everything and do something dangerous, and I would yell, stop doing that, and he would ignore me. But the good news is, if you're in Bristol now and you fall and you can't get up, there's a good possibility that it will be Joseph who will come pick you up, put you in the ambulance, and drive you to the hospital. Your voice is your instrument. Choose to the effective way, whether you want to talk really loud or where you want to whisper and be very quiet. Hand gestures are very important. I have a tendency to do this. This is distracting in person, but it's even worse when I'm doing it on Zoom. If you have a hand gesture, make it a point. This is the reason I'm doing this particular hand gesture. And then your body language. If I'm saying, yes, I will buy your product, but my head is doing this. See, I can't say yes and do this easily. Be aware of what your body is saying. Your body is sending out messages, whether or not you intend to or whether or not you're aware of it. There's an entire study on where you can study body languages and what your eyes are saying. What are you afraid of? This is a chart from the Washington Post. Number one thing is public speaking, and over 25% of the people who responded said they were afraid of public speaking. Then the other things are common down through there. People are afraid of heights, bugs, snakes, and spiders, I would put in that category. Drowning, blood and needles, claustrophobia. People are afraid of small spaces. Flying. I'm not so much afraid of flying, I'm afraid of crashing. Strangers, zombies, I'm pretty surprised that made the list. Darkness, clowns, and ghosts. There's a movie that not recently, a few years came out that has contributed to the fear of clowns because that's a pretty terrifying movie. This chart is kind of dated. This is from 2014. There is another chart that was out, and public speaking still made the top 10, but I didn't use that chart because it wasn't number one. I wanted to prove my point. Why are you afraid of these things? And then more importantly, what can you do to control your fear? This is part of the Toastmasters Better Speaking series. Anxiety triggers. Well, what are some of those? New and unknown situations. New experiences are stressful. The inability to anticipate the unforeseen causes a high level of anxiety. Risk of failure. From childhood to adulthood, we dream of success and victory and all of these wonderful things, and to not achieve that can cause nervousness and anxiety in a lot of people. Potential for appearing foolish. Beyond achieving our goals, we all want to appear polished in the way that we accomplish our goals. No one wants to suffer disgrace or bring the possibility of embarrassment upon themselves or their family or their organization. The possibility of boring the audience. A speaker's hope is to engage and enamor the audience, and the fear of connecting with the audience is being considered boring or perhaps brings insecurities and apprehension and worry. Well, what are some of the symptoms of anxiety? Increased heart rate. Adrenaline flows within our body. And when something happens, have you heard of the instances where a mother was able to pick up a car off of her child that was in danger? That's adrenaline. It causes our heart to race. It pushes extra blood and oxygen to our muscles and to our brain. There's actually a group of people who are addicted to adrenaline, the adrenaline rush, when they purposely put themselves in dangerous situations. Well, what are you going to do when you have these symptoms? The increased heart rate, butterflies in the stomach, that uneasiness that you feel down in your gut, uncontrollable shakes. Have you ever seen someone who's holding a microphone and that microphone literally trembles right in front of them? They cannot control that hand. They cannot control that part of the body that's actually shaking. I've seen it. Lightheadedness, and then even dizziness. And then when you get to these points, you're actually getting in a very dangerous part. You could actually pass out from the symptoms of anxiety. Well, what are we going to do? We've got to learn to manage this anxiety. It's common with speakers, it's common that we are concerned about everything and that we are nervous, but the key is to managing those. All right, let's look at some tips on how to manage those. Number one is experience. Studies show that one of the best methods for reducing anxiety is to practice and practice and practice. Repeatedly giving your speech reduces your fear and helps you to feel confident when you're giving that speech. Practice in front of a mirror. I know how awkward it feels to stand in front of a mirror and to hear yourself speak, and not just in a conversational tone, but to actually be giving a presentation. But do it. Practice in front of a mirror. Practice in front of friends and family. Of course, this one depends on who your friends and family are and how well they would listen to you, and if they would just make faces at you while you're trying to practice your speech, or whether they will actually pay attention and give you feedback. Deliver your speech before a Toastmasters club. Toastmasters club. What are you talking about? Well, I'll explain that here in just a little bit later. And give your presentation before other groups. In other words, volunteer to be a speaker. Step out of your comfort zone and give that speech over and over, and you'll become more confident giving that one. Visualization is another way to manage your anxiety. Research shows that visually imaged events are recorded as memories to the brain and to the central nervous system. These memories are indistinguishable from actual events. Thought processes cause psychological changes that affect performance. Do you realize when you learn something new that neurons actually grow within your brain? You're making a physical change to your brain by learning and by visualizing. If you see the basketball players, you would notice your favorite player, they do the same thing. They will walk up to the foul line, bounce 3 times, take their foul shot, or whatever system they have. They have been visualizing making that foul shot over and over again. We can use that method as professional speakers. All right, what if you envision with me now? You are introduced to the audience. You walk up to the lectern. You smile at people as you pass, maybe a little friendly wave. You breathe deeply several times before you begin. Then you speak. You speak forcefully, confidently, remembering all your points. You captivate the audience with your words, your gestures, and your vocal variety. And when you finish, the audience applauds. When I do a PowerPoint, it's common for me to put the canned applause as the last soundbite in there so that people are encouraged to applaud. I didn't do it with this one since we're on Zoom, but that is a common thing that speakers will do. You can visualize yourself successfully giving a speech, and then you'll have more success doing it. Another tip for managing anxiety are relaxation techniques. Isometric exercise, to me, I envision yoga poses or concentrating on one part of the body. All right, do this with me. Sit up straight. We're going to concentrate on the shoulders. My shoulders, this is where I carry my anxiety. So I'm going to roll my shoulders forward about 3 or 4 times. Then I'm going to roll backward. You can actually do this particular exercise when you're sitting in your seat in front of the audience before you get up to speak. I'm concentrating on this one part of my body. I'm rolling my shoulders forward and then rolling them back. The reason I'm doing that is so my heart is not racing and I'm concentrating on the racing heart. I'm focusing on one part of the area. Once you get really good at focusing on one part of your area and putting your concentration there, you can learn to focus on that hand that's shaking, and you learn to control that and reduce that anxiety, the shaking. You can control that. It's a learned technique, but it's possible. Another relaxation technique is breathing. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Here we go. In through your nose. Hold it. And out. Now, I did that rather quickly. You're supposed to do it very slowly in through your nose and out through your mouth. Just that simple breathing technique allows your mind to focus on breathing and not focus on the anxiety that you're actually feeling because you're about to give a speech or do something that really takes you out of your comfort zone. An exercise that we can add with the breathing technique, a yoga instructor actually showed me this one. I hold my hands right straight out, and as I breathe in, my hands will go out to my side. Do it with me. Don't just sit here. Watch me. Do it with me. Breathe in through your nose. Move your hands up, and then we're going to breathe out through our mouth as our hands relax. That allows you to focus. It allows you to incorporate both the exercise and the breathing together to help you to relax. It's normal to feel nervous. When I feel that nervousness, I think, I'm alive. Look at that feeling that I have right now. If you focus on that as a positive feeling instead of a negative feeling, then you can feed off of that energy. Your audience won't notice if you don't bring attention to it. Have you heard somebody get up in front of a group and they're standing behind the lectern and they say, oh, I'm so glad I'm behind this thing so you can't see my knees knocking together? I've heard that statement many times, and I'm sure it's true. But if you don't bring attention to your nervousness, then I will think you're up there just as confident as you could be. Use methods to exhibit confidence. Hold your head high, hold your back straight, use your breathing techniques. And we tend to speak faster when we're nervous. So concentrate on every word, and that will help you to exhibit confidence. We talked about practicing your speech in a Toastmasters club. Well, what is a Toastmasters club? Let me take a few minutes to share with you some information. This is from a Toastmasters PowerPoint called Find Your Voice. What is a Toastmaster? It's a worldwide nonprofit educational organization that empowers people to become more effective communicators and leaders. Notice there's 2 points to that: communicators and leaders. This is a place to develop both of those skills. It's a network of 364,000 members and 16,000 clubs across 145 countries. I was really surprised when I read the statistics. Toastmasters started here in the United States by a man named Ralph Smedley. He was a mentor to a group of young men, and he noticed that they were very nervous when they got up to speak, or they needed to develop their speaking skills. And so he started practicing with them, and he started having meetings with them. Okay, now this meeting, person A, you're going to speak. Next meeting, person B. And they had to practice. It's not, well, it comes natural to some people, but it's not something that comes natural to most people. So they had to practice, and they had to have a group where they practiced giving their speeches. That group, by the way, started in the 1920s. So it isn't an old organization or a mature organization. It's an effective provider of dynamic, high-value, experiential communication and leadership skill development. Well, if you want to explore Toastmasters, you can look at how you would benefit from joining a club or even attending a club. First of all, you would improve your public speaking skills. You would build leadership skills. You would practice writing speeches and presenting in a group setting, and gain a competitive advantage in the workplace. You could work on networking in a small and supportive environment. You would build confidence and self-awareness. It has unlimited personal growth, and it allows you to maximize your potential. Well, how do we do this? How do we know what speech to give and what speech I'm going to write? The Toastmaster has a club experience. The club mission is we provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in a greater self-confidence and personal growth. You have hands-on learning. You practice prepared and impromptu speeches. Impromptu means off the top of your head. In Toastmasters, we call these table topics. You are volunteer or you can be called upon, and you're given a subject, and you are expected to talk about that subject for 1 to 2 minutes right off the top of your head. In your mind, you have to be organizing your speech, giving the introduction, the points, the conclusion, all within that 1 minute speaking time. And that's a skill you have to develop. It's an opportunity to lead at every meeting. We have different roles that people take and you volunteer for. You receive feedback and evaluation in a supportive environment. If I'm going to give a speech, I want to give it in Toastmasters first so they can give me the feedback on how to make that better. You have access to a mentor. Every person that joins a Toastmasters club is assigned a mentor. What is the Pathways learning experience? Pathways is the device that we use to go through our learning path. And it tells us what speech you give first. The speech that you give first is about the topic you know the most about. You know the most about you. So that's the first speech that you write and that you give in front of a Toastmasters club. It's called an icebreaker because it's the very first one. It's supposed to break the ice. And then after you give that speech, you're more comfortable than following up with the others. Pathways is the Toastmasters educational program. As Nita said, I am a teacher and I have written courses and developed courses and put them online using a learning management program. This is what Pathways is, our learning management program. It was professional developed just for us, incorporating speaking and leadership requirements. Each member receives one free path to start, and you choose from 11 different paths based on your goals. Not everybody might choose the same path. You have a choice of which one you want. And you use Pathways online or in print. Of course, I prefer the online version, so I can click on it, and no matter where I am, as long as I can log on to my laptop or my mobile device, I can track my progress. But if you prefer in print, that is available. And you can work at your own pace. It takes most people about a year to complete one path. Now, you can do it faster, but you would be giving a speech at almost every single meeting. Most people don't like their speeches clustered that closely. They'd like to have a little time in between to think about it, to develop their next speech. But it's up to you. You can work at your own pace. Build better professional skills. And I'm sure that's the goal of many of you here, is to build yourself professionally and to develop those skills. Here's an example of, or a glimpse at the pathways that are available. There are 11 paths pictured on here. And then over on the left, we have 5 core competencies: public speaking, interpersonal communication, strategic leadership, management, and confidence. Now, each one of those are grouped with a number. So if I look over here at the 11 paths that are available, there's dynamic leadership, effective coaching, engaging humor, innovative planning, leadership development, motivational strategies, persuasive influence, presentation mastery, strategic relationships, team collaboration, and visionary communication. There are numbers associated with each one of these. Those numbers are linked back to these competencies that we were talking about. So most people, when they're wanting to improve their presentation skills, they choose presentation mastery. It's the second one on the column on the right, the second one down. And the presentation mastery focuses on two competencies. Number one, which is public speaking, and number five, which is confidence. That's not to say you won't gain some of these other skills. It's just saying it doesn't focus on that particular one in these paths. After I give a speech in a Toastmasters club, I will hear the evaluation. And the picture that you see right here is actual an evaluation form. And it's highlighted the area where it says spoken language is clear and easily understood. Then there's a 5-point scale, with 5 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. And under vocal variety, it says uses tone, speed, and volume as a tool. And then there's a place to write comments where you can say, oh, I heard you go really loud for this, or I heard when you whispered when you were giving certain examples. So that allows you to do that. This is the evaluation product, the evaluation sheet. Now, the idea is once you give a speech, you get this feedback, you make improvements, and it just gets better. And if you give it again and you get more suggestions, then your speech gets better. We are constantly evolving, constantly growing. And it's specifically if you have a speech that you're going to give as a candidate and you want people to vote for you, I would encourage you to give that speech several times and to get feedback from different people to continue making it better. The learning doesn't stop at the club. You get a subscription to the Toastmasters Magazine. And of course, now that subscription is online, so you can read it at your convenience. And also, there are speech contests. Some of the main contests are the evaluation contest, table topics, international, and humorous. Now, we talked about what table topics really is. Table topics is that impromptu speaking that we're going to do. We also talked about the evaluation. People actually develop the skill of giving a good evaluation to the speakers, something they can use to make their speech better. There is an international convention. During the year 2020, our international convention was scheduled in Paris, France. But you know what happened in 2020? COVID happened in 2020. Nobody got to go to Paris. And it was very disappointing because if you enter the contest and you win at all the levels, you win your way all the way up to you get to compete at the international level, Toastmasters would have paid your way to go to Paris. Now, the 2021 conference was scheduled in someplace just as glorious, Nashville, Tennessee. Okay, that fits much better within my budget, but it really doesn't have the allure that Paris had. But anyway, that conference has also been moved online. But that's okay. It means that people don't have to spend several days traveling. They can enjoy that conference online. Not only do we have the international convention, but we have our district conferences. Our district means just those for our local area. Our district in this area is District 63, and our District 63 conference is coming up April 22nd through the 24th, and it will be online. It was scheduled to be in person in Chattanooga, but it will be online now. And if anybody is interested, you can email me. I'll have my contact information later. You can email me and I'll give you the website where you can get the Zoom link to attend on that. It's not 3 days straight. On Thursday, it starts Thursday evening, and we have a keynote speaker and then one of the contests. Then it starts Friday afternoon, and then Saturday we'll go all day. So the idea of spreading it over the 3 days, if you have a scheduling conflict for one day, it's okay. You don't have to miss the whole thing. You can get bits and pieces of it. Our District 63 reaches from Richlands, Virginia, all the way down to Nashville, Tennessee, and all the area that's in between in there. And you have access to helpful resources at the toastmasters.org. This presentation that I'm giving you it came off of that website. So there are many presentations that are already built for you. You just have to use those and add in your personal notes and how this would benefit your audience. Break barriers, not your budget. Compared to conferences and seminars, Toastmasters is ongoing and affordable. Most cost-effective way to learn. And new members pay a $20 new member fee per person. And you notice they've had to put in USD to show it's $20 US money because this is an international organization. And then $45 for a 6-month membership is what the person pays in dues per person. They've compared that to the Dale Carnegie 3-day seminar, which starts at $1,795 per person. The idea is that Toastmasters is very affordable. It's not where you have to take a week off of your normal working schedule. This is something that is continuing and very affordable. There is a local Wolf Hills Toastmasters Club. What you need to know about that is in 2017, a lady moved to Abingdon from Baltimore. She looked around Abingdon and she said, there's no Toastmasters Club. She was a very active member back in Baltimore, and she wanted to continue that, and she couldn't find one in Abingdon. So she scheduled a meeting with David Matlock, and David asked me to join that meeting. She talked about what is required and some of the things that we needed to do and how she was active. And David said to me and Kathy Ziegler, I want you to start a local club, a local Toastmasters club. Well, at that time, I didn't know anything about it. And I said, okay, I will start a Toastmasters club, but there's one question I have. What's a Toastmaster? What is Toastmasters? But since that time in 2017, I've learned a lot. And the interesting part is I continue to learn. There is no one who says, I know it all, because there's so many more things. Each club has their own atmosphere. I've been to different clubs meetings because we're meeting by Zoom. I can go to local clubs and go to their Zoom meeting, and I can go to clubs across the world now and meet at different Toastmasters clubs and see the things that they do the same and the same things that they would do differently than our Wolf Hills Club. The Wolf Hills Club meets the second and fourth Thursday of each month. We meet from 3:15 to 4:15, and we are business professionals. You can meet in person or online. Now, the reason we meet during the workday is because so many of our organizations, they pay our dues. They see this as professional development. They want us to go to these meetings. And because it's just twice a month, it's not a huge imposition. It doesn't take a lot out of our workday, but it is worth the effort for this professional development. So that's why we meet 3:15 to 4:15. Again, you can meet in person online. To find out a little bit more about us, or maybe to see some pictures, you might see a picture or two of Nita. You can go to our Facebook page, which is the Wolf Hills Toastmasters, and you'll see some pictures and some information, and just give you a little bit more about who is already in the club. Well, what if you can't meet during the afternoon on a Thursday? You could go to Toastmasters website and click on Find a Club, and you'll find some other local clubs. Some clubs meet during the lunch hour, and they allow you to Zoom in. And then if you're using your lunch hour, you're using your own time, you can do that. Some clubs meet in the evenings, and it's very popular to have a club meeting on a Monday night. That's the most popular time, is a club meeting on a Monday night from 7 to 8. But there are enough clubs to where you can find a club that fits into your schedule. As I was doing the research for this speech, I came across this Microsoft downloadable document. This is called a public speaking peer review sheet. This looks very familiar. Over on the left-hand side, you have a 1 to 5 scale, and you have where 1 is not too well and 5 is the best that you can get. Look at the areas that can be reviewed. Posture. Does the speaker stand up straight? and exude confidence. Ideas. Does the speaker share ideas or elements relevant to his or her topic? Clarity. Does the speaker communicate in a clear and concise manner? Eye contact. Does the speaker make the audience feel as they are part of his or her presentation? And then down under the comment section, one area I truly enjoyed about your presentation was, and then you fill in the space there. One area of possible improvement is. I've given you my email address and my phone number. You're welcome to contact me by either one of these methods. If you call me, you're probably going to get voicemail, so be prepared to leave a message, because I'm either teaching a class or in a Toastmasters meeting or attending our College for Older Adults, which happens to be going on right now. These are free classes that are offered for the community. The fun thing about this particular term, because we're doing it on Zoom, our College for Older Adults would normally have an age limit where you had to be 50 or above to attend the classes. That has been wiped for these Zoom meetings. So there's no cost to our COA for this term, and there's no age restriction. That's for this term only for these presentations on Zoom. Hopefully in the fall, our College for Older Adults will go back to in-person meetings, and we'll be able to see each other and hear each other. At this point, I'm going to ask Nita to give me my evaluation.
Well, Sonya, you did a great presentation as always. Your presentation flowed. You had great eye contact. Your voice tone was wonderful. You were captivating. You gave examples and situations regarding your presentation. You aced it, as you always do. So it's always a pleasure just to get to listen to what you're saying. And going to what you might want to work on is maybe your hand gestures, which I can't. I applaud you for doing this by Zoom. That's hard too. It really is. And to challenge yourself just to excel at what you're doing. We really appreciate everything that you've done today. And I hope everybody will see how important Toastmasters is. I have been part of Toastmasters and it is great. Hope to get back into it. I think it is a #1 way to do just going to meetings, networking. You'll see a lot of people there that will become your friends and also help you in your public speaking. So thank you so much for being our presenter today.
Thank you, Nita. And I do want to tell everyone why I asked for this evaluation. I'm going to count this speech as one of my steps in completing the path that I'm working on. I'm working on dynamic leadership, and giving a Zoom presentation is one of the things that I have to do. But in order for me to be able to count it, I have to have a verbal evaluation and I have to have a written evaluation. So Nita is going to email me that. I'll put that in my portfolio and I'll check off that box. I'm one step closer to finishing my path. Thank you, Nita. You did a wonderful job.
Thank you. We hope to see a lot of you at the next Toastmasters. And please contact Sonya if you have any questions. And thank you again, Sonya. Also, just want to let you know on April the 21st, we've got Sarah Sabeda, and she's going to be presenting using online tools to market your business. So please join us on that date. And as always, we appreciate you and look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day. Thank you.
Nita, one thing I did want to point out is that tomorrow will be the second Thursday of the month. Now, what happens on the second Thursday? We have Toastmasters meeting. So any of you are welcome to join the meeting. Again, just use that email address or contact Nita and she can share that with you. And I'll send you the Zoom link, the Zoom meeting ID, and it'll be very similar to this. You can meet in person at the Higher Education Center. We meet in room 130. You need to wear your mask and social distance and all those wonderful things we have to do right now. Or you can participate via Zoom, not even leave your office, just click on the buttons. The 8th and the 22nd. And if those days don't work into your schedule, the 2nd and 4th Thursday of every month. We'll be there.
Thank you, Sonya. Great information. Well, everyone have a great day. Stay safe. We hope to see you next time.